I'm Sebastian Asuka. I work at LOOKA Research as a market research analyst. Yeah, I worked as a field surveyor for LOOKA Research before I transitioned into a market research analyst at LOOKA. Yeah, the transition was a nice transition, and also I was very opportunistic. I wanted to know, like, this data that you're collecting in the field, who is going to analyze it and who is going to benefit from it, and from my skills and my knowledge in terms of how we have collected this data in the field, I need to be there on the table to make sure like this data is being interpreted in a nice way and give actionable insights to our clients and to people in general.
Okay, and how did you manage to transition? Were there any challenges you had?
In terms of the challenges for transitioning from being a field surveyor to become a market research analyst, to me it was a good challenge in a way, simply because I had a background in terms of research. Under my undergraduate, I did Bachelor of Science in Statistics, so I had a lot of knowledge regarding research. So as a field surveyor, I was like practicing what I've studied. And then in terms of being a market research analyst, one of the major challenge I faced, a lot of our clients, a lot of our colleagues were from the West Africa region, and they were speaking in French. So for me to manage to solve that issue, I just had to start learning French, of which as per now I'm like 60% knowing French. So I'm almost coming up with a solution to that challenge.
Okay, so.
In terms of what made me to become curious to transition to become a market research analyst, I wanted to, being a Pan-African, for example, I wanted to join an organization that it's also for Africa, for example, and the mission that LOOKA is doing is in terms of changing, in terms of research in Africa, for example, and this was the biggest motivation to me. Like, in future, I want to move from a field surveyor into a market research so that I can be able to align the values that I have with the mission that LOOKA Research had. And then after some point, there was an advert about looking for a market research analyst. And then I just told myself, yeah, this is the opportunity I need to take. And then I managed to apply. And from my 4 years experience as a field surveyor, they just saw like, yeah, Sebastian is the right person for this opportunity.
Okay. And what is it about your previous life as a LOOKA surveyor did you like the most when it comes to how LOOKA does their market research?
Yeah, what I liked most about what LOOKA Research does in terms of their approach to research, they are Pan-African, as I said earlier, is they want to change the narrative in Africa regarding research. Let me give a statistic example. Like in Africa, 75% of research is done by foreigners, and LOOKA Research wants to change that. And many other brands in Africa that they want to change that perspective. So that motivated me in terms of, I personally also want to change the narrative about research in Africa, not being done by foreigners, but being done with us in Africa. We are on the ground. We know what really is happening on the ground in Africa, and that motivated me to join LOOKA Research. We did a P2P study in Kenya and in South Africa concerning mobile money, and it was a very interesting research to mobile money providers, not just in Kenya and not just in South Africa. It was just like an epic of 2 examples of countries to be able to learn about mobile money transactions in Africa in general. So we decided to pivot in Kenya and in South Africa. And the major interesting fact was that for example, in Kenya, nearly half of Kenyans, they use mobile money on their daily activities. In South Africa, it was also nearly half of South Africans use their mobile money in terms of doing their day-to-day transaction. And how can we be able to translate this near like 50% of Kenyans and 50% of South Africans, they are using mobile money. This is towards fintech companies in Africa, for example. They can be able to come and learn about, they can even reach out to us. We can be able to give all this insight that we have about mobile money transactions in Kenya and in South Africa, and also it was relating to in terms of remittance in abroad from Kenya to other African countries and to countries abroad outside the African continent, the same way to money remittance from South Africans to neighboring countries like Zimbabwe, Malawi, and other countries outside Africa. It was very interesting study that we did sometime back in 2022. And for more, you can just reach out to LOOKA Research and you can be able to learn more. In terms of the integration of AI, to me it's not a threat, but to me it's just a backup. I can use an example. The future of jobs research that was done by World Economic Forum for 2025, there were top 10 declining jobs by 2030, and there were top 10 jobs that AI will be able to bring more into the market. And one of the top 10 that AI will be able to bring more jobs was data science. And I, being in the data science field, to me, AI is just like my partner to help me advance more in data science, advance more as a market research analyst, and also AI will help me in terms of integration of our data into our system. Interpretation of data will be more because using my human intervention plus AI, to me, is like a backup partner. I'll be able to give more actionable insights from the data that we collect from the field to making good actionable insight in business and in social science as well.
Okay, fantastic. So with AI as your co-pilot in your work, other than that, what can you say are other important skills that someone needs to be able to succeed in your position as a market research analyst or just in market research generally?
One of the key skills for someone to succeed in the market research field is being curious. If you're curious, you'll be able to succeed. Another key is being attention to detail. You can have a data with 10 rows, but you can generate a lot of actionable insights from just a small data set. On the contrary, you can have a large data set of even 5,000 rows in an Excel sheet. But if you're not curious, if you're not attention to detail, you cannot be able to translate all this information that you have collected into making impact to the society at large.
Okay, thank you so much. And given everything that you say, you really know what you do. You've been in the behind the scenes, and now you're in the thick of it before the reports are produced and before the stakeholders get to know what they're going to do with the data. What could you say you do to position yourself when it comes to staying up to date with the trends in data science and whatnot? How do you keep up to that?
Yeah, in terms of keeping up to the trends in the market research field, number one, what I do, I always say what does our competitors do? So I do subscribe to a lot of newsletters of a lot of market research companies in Africa specifically. I do subscribe to them so that I can be able to follow all the trends, what they're doing. Number two, personally, I always love to be mentored. So I always look at people in the market research field, not just in Africa, but also in other continents. And I always follow them to be able just to learn about what trends. And also from a research perspective, you are always a student every day. You are supposed to learn. So what I do, I always enroll to online courses just to learn more about market research. I see myself is I see Sebastian, a Pan-African research analyst with his own company in the next 10 years. And this company will be able to work together with other African market research companies that they are trying to change the narrative about research in Africa in terms of developing strategies and policies to enhance research in Africa. And also personally, I'm also doing currently Masters in Strategic Management so that I can also incorporate that in terms of generating policies to governments in Africa so that we can move research in Africa to the next level where it's supposed to be.
Okay, thank you so much.
The number one advice is you need to know your why. Like, why am I transitioning from the current career path I am moving into market research. Then number two, after knowing your why, number two, it's in research. Research is very broad. You can easily transfer the skills that you have. Let's say, for example, you are into project management. You can easily transfer your skills in project management into research. You are in communication. You are in IT. You are in tech. You can easily transfer all the skills you have into research very easily. And then number two, you need to be like a baby. You need to learn. You need to be very willing to learn. And how can you be able to learn? Number one, you can look for a mentor. Look for someone in research who has experience in research. Look for that particular person. Ask that person to mentor you into research. And then number two, after being mentored, you need to be like your own boss. And how can you be your own boss? You need to have all those basic skills in research. And how can you be able to do that? AI is there. You don't have to go to a university, to a school, to a college to learn. AI is there at the comfort of your home. You can easily start by learning online courses in research.